Hi, everybody. My name is Alicia. Welcome to my final Grand Rounds presentation. Thank you for being flexible and letting me do it online. For my introduction and occupational profile, my client, his initials are JG. He's 56 years old, lives with his wife at home, uses a quad cane and a manual wheelchair to move around his house. He presents with a post-cerebral infarction, so he's post-stroke. He confirmed being independent in his ADLs before his injury, having a one-story house with a bathroom on the first floor, needing assistance in bathing, dressing, and toileting, enjoying his leisure activities of fishing, playing board games, watching TV, and falling 3 times in the week prior to our eval session. His supports include his wife at home. She's a teacher throughout the day, so I'm pretty sure he has a care partner at home that helps him. His wheelchair and quad cane are both devices that increase his independence within his own home. And he also has a driver that comes to drop him off at our session sometimes. His barriers include his ability to only really answer with yes or no. He has expressive aphasia, so that's where his comfort is in answering yes or no. And he's not interested in using an AAC device. I even printed out low tech AAC devices, and it just wasn't his thing. And we could talk enough where it wasn't really needed. He is also a fall risk, and he experiences decreased motivation in our sessions. So, for the situation assessment and safety concerns, he presents with hemiplegia and hemiparesis following a cerebral infarction, affecting his right dominant side. His comorbidities include expressive aphasia, scapular winging, anterior shoulder subluxation, flexor synergy of the right hand, and depression. He receives both OT and PT at CUW, and he has a manual wheelchair that he does not self propel and uses a quad cane, like I mentioned. He also wears a lower extremity AFO on his right ankle and foot. So, in our session assessment, he did arrive late. We were able to get through things. So, like for our occupational profile, it was very quick. That's why I use the word confirmed, because it was more so a is everything still the same as it was before? Yes. Is it this? Yes. Is it this? Yes. And then it was move on to the next one. So it was a very quick occupational profile. We did do the PSFS, and he identified he wanted to work on transfers, which he rated a 4, and cooking, which he rated a 6. We also did a shoulder subluxation assessment, like with fingers. And because we knew going into it, he had a sublux shoulder. His shoulder, unsupported from his wheelchair, was at a 3 anteriorly sublux. And then when it was supported with the wheelchair, it became a 2. And then we did a lower extremity dressing assessment in which he just put on pants to see where his abilities were. His safety concerns that he's a fall risk. He had a history of seizures. He had a 3-finger subluxation, so it was do not range of motion. And he had impaired motor planning and coordination, which just overall decreased his safety and ability for fluid movements and transfers. So for the goals, I changed my goals midway. And so the first goal is increasing strength in his right shoulder. So we were kind of focused on like rehabbing the shoulder. Um, but I'll explain why we had to switch goals in the next slide. And then my second goal, or I switched the goal to using adaptive strategies to cook a meal with, because it was just more functional for him to do that rather than actually rehab his entire shoulder. And then we had a goal about transfers, which was performing a sit to stand transfer safely in 3 to 4 trials, because in eval, I did not eval his transfers, but I saw him get out of his car to his wheelchair, and I thought it'd be good to work on that. And then he also talked about wanting to work on cooking and transfers, just on this graph to the right. um, he pointed those out and rated them, and that's how we got our answers for the PSFS. And yeah, so then for our plan of care, so for the original goal, I did this for 2 of the goals, And it was going to be restoring his shoulder and doing neuromuscular reeducation through SabioStim and NMES and using the biomechanical and MoHo approach kind of combined. And so the interventions included using the Sabio to decrease his shoulder subluxation and having the E-stim to make his shoulder do shoulder extension. And to do that, we made him open a drawer and doing rolling cookie dough and things like that. But then halfway in our sessions, he got Botox in his arm, and it made the muscles too paralyzed to keep trying to work on that. So we changed the goal to make it more modify based and compensatory strategy based. So this was focused on his self-care of cooking and like home management. And so we did this using the occupational adaptation model. And the interventions about this was a lot of education and then just cooking and seeing how, if he likes it, the technique, if we should change it and how to work on the technique. And this with varied prompting. For his transfer goal, we focused on creating a new way to like look at how to transfer and like focus on his lower extremity because he wouldn't pay attention to where his leg was, and we want it obviously under him to actually be able to support when he stands. So I used the PEOP model, and because I wanted to focus on him and his environment and being able to use this idea of transfers anywhere. And then our interventions was a lot of education and handouts, and then performing transfers in a cooking task, such as me being like, oh my gosh, we need chips, go get them from the cabinet, and he'd have to sit to stand up. I'm not going to read all the OT domains, but I listed them all here. I tried to focus specifically on what we are working on, not just overall general ones. So, yeah. And then for occupational outcomes, he met one of his goals. Ow! So that was really exciting. He met his adaptive strategies goal. He was not able to meet his second sit to stand transfer goal, but he demonstrated a decrease in physical assist, so we didn't have to lift him or really even touch him at all. He also needed very minimal cueing for where his legs should be and a decrease in actual initiation of like scooting his butt forward and starting to rock of the sit to stand transfer. So although we didn't meet it, obvious improvements were made. And then the best part of it is the PSFS, he rated his transfers a 7 instead of a 4, and his cooking improved to an 8. So this was really exciting because my client was, due to his expressive aphasia, it was very yes, no. So I was scared about building rapport and everything. But seeing how he saw improvements in himself, I was so excited. It was a very, very good moment for me. um, so for some recommendations is that I want him to continue to see OT services for his other transfers, such as a pivot transfer or stand to sit transfer. Improvement in his motor planning, endurance, safety awareness, and coordination in tasks such as his lower extremity dressing, cooking, and any transfers. I think he should continue to see PT services for ambulation, endurance in standing and walking, and general balance. I think he should be referred to SLP services for advice and help on speech production because he would, at the end of our sessions, he would begin to start to speak more rather than just say yes or no, which I think was a big step. But I think SLP would really come in and help with that. I also think it'd be recommended to have a jar opener and dice him for various occupations that we worked on. His next steps, I feel like, is that we should address cognition with this client and see if there's any cognitive deficits that are impairing his safety awareness, decrease in motor planning, and perseveration. I think we should also address his stand to sit. I feel like sometimes his judgment of where the wheelchair was in comparison to his bottom should be looked at because he would just go down and it was not as close as he thought it was going to be. I also think that we should address lower extremity dressing. So, what did I learn? First thing I learned, when your session goes wrong, stay calm. I did a whole session and it just did not work out as I planned it to, kind of at all. But I stayed calm and we figured something out. I also think another thing that I learned is that I shouldn't be afraid to push my client to participate because my client has expressive aphasia. It was very like monotone, one phase, and I think it's the depression adding into it. But we got to a point where I was able to say, I know you're joking with me right now because I talked to the PT and you can walk there. And he looked at me like, I said, yeah, I know, I got you. So I think obviously don't push your client too hard, but don't let them get away if they're not in pain type of idea. I also think that we should all talk to our PT or SLP friends. I talked to my PT friend and we had a great session and it was really cool. We bitzed with her and cooked with me. And I also think what's important is that if you're having fun, so is your client. Again, my client, very monotone, very based, but I think he liked the goofiness and my mistakes and accidents, and he would giggle and laugh and have fun with me and enjoy the session. So I think that's really important to at least show that you're enjoying it, even if they're not super excited. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. Bye.